What's going on, you guys? It's AskCab bringing you guys another video, and in today's video I'm super excited for what we're going to be covering. I got a lot to talk about, but first things first, I would like to give a special thank you to Absoulem, another content creator here on YouTube, for allowing me to react to 2 videos of his in particular. I did go ahead and request to react to these, of course, and put my own 2 cents and thoughts and opinions on. So I would just like to go ahead and say that this video right here it was like 3 years old, or almost 4 years old now at this point, and this video right here is a year old, which will be the follow-up video that I'll be doing. We are going to be touching on that 4-year-old video first, and then we'll be going ahead and moving on to the like year-old video at this point in a follow-up video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Thank you guys for being here, and yeah, once again, thank you to Absoulem for allowing me to use his content. These videos are actually covering all of Call of Duty Zombies, and it's not just like a specifically World War II oriented video. So if you guys are interested in any other section of these videos, then be sure to go ahead and check those out. As you can see, titles right here. I'll also have them linked in the description below. This was his more recent video, and the one we were just on was his older one. So we're going to be going over the older one first, of course, and then we will move on to the newer one, which, again, like I said, there are a few things that kind of overlap. He kind of touches on things he's said in this video in the newer one, and his perspective may have changed here and there, and I'll touch on that and what I have to say about that. I would also like to mention that whenever he talks, I'm obviously not going to talk. I'll pause the video whenever I need to say something. I will also be doing cuts here and there where needed to go ahead and just cut dead air, or like insert something that would help substantiate what I'm saying. But I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into it. Just start the video.
And with that, that's going to conclude Infinite Warfare Zombies. So that leaves us with the beloved World War II Zombies. I'm actually shocked this has anything left, since the community couldn't stop praising this game for all of its dragons and apothicons and shadow guys and... Wait, sorry, wrong game. Actually, no, World War II is one of the toughest zombies, not only for surviving, but for hunting. The devs left no handouts in this game, and even went on record saying that these Easter eggs are some of the hardest ones ever, but they are kind of possible if we look hard enough.
And I feel like that's a lot of the reason people have not even bothered hunting with this game, apart from the fact that it was kind of boycotted in the first place. It's literally just because it feels like for the community, there was no real leads to go off of and really get the flow of finding these Easter eggs going. So it really just like took a lot of digging, and where people just weren't into the game like that, it just like it was never gonna happen. So like,
yes,
there needed to be more, essentially, is what I'm trying to get at,
for
like the community to go off of.
Path to get, you know, the players who want to get in and explore and see what the game's all about. But there is this deeper, darker level. It is wicked hard.
To go off of what Cameron Dayton just said, which is the developer for World War II Zombies, if you don't know, he basically just said that the casual Easter egg is just the game directs you through it. The hardcore is for the player that wants to dig into it a little bit more. And there's a darker, like deeper, darker side to the story if we are willing to like dig and find it. It pretty much is what he was just saying.
Thanks, guys. For real though, this is one of my favorite zombies, if I'm being honest, and it absolutely kills me that there's not much solved in this game, because most likely there is far more to discover than what I'm going to cover today. I'm only going to be going over the known unsolved Easter eggs, but I bet there are loads of eggs yet to be discovered. The community kind of boycotted this game, leaving lots of work to be done, so let's dive into the insanity that is left to be sorted out on World War II Zombies.
Yeah, and see, that's the biggest problem with this. Like I was just saying, they boycotted the game pretty much. Like nobody wanted to play it. I don't know necessarily why that was. Like I was still kind of there for part of its life cycle. I was more into like other games at the time, so maybe that's like more so what was going on, is just there was bigger, better titles going on at the time, where people just, this wasn't their focus, I guess, and then where there was so little being given to us by the development team in terms of like clues or hints, people just like found their audience elsewhere, essentially.
Our first few Easter eggs take place on the final right. So let's start with the most popular Easter egg, and this is known as the Clock Tower Easter egg. Very little is actually known about this one, other than that there's 4 Tesla coils placed at the top of the clock tower. We also know that it is possible for the Zeppelin to strike one of these Tesla coils. Originally, it was believed that the Zeppelin had to be shot in 6 different places in order to make it strike the tower. However, my friend Glitching Queen made a video on this, and it actually just proves why this isn't actually possible, and it gives really good insight on the clock tower, so I highly recommend that video, which I'll link below in the description. So after her discovery, we know that the Zeppelin can in fact strike the tower, but it's only random, and that the player doesn't actually need to do anything.
Yeah, so basically, if you don't know, back in the day, there was a theory that when the Zeppelin flies in, it's able to shock the clock tower and light up these Tesla coils. If it were possible that we had done something correct or something, it was speculated that the Zeppelin would be able to come in, activate those lightning rods by zapping them. And then there was a clip going around that I had seen. I don't know if I had seen it in the past, but I definitely saw it more recently when I was doing some more of this digging. There was somebody that speculated that you had to shoot all 6 of the like mortar boxes off the side of the Zeppelin in order to get it to actually shoot one of the lightning rods. Glitching Queen, the chick that Absoulem just called out and pointed out her video, she actually in that video pretty much found out that you don't need to do anything to the Zeppelin. It'll just kind of do that by itself sometimes. So either it could still potentially be something for that reason, because I mean it still is trying to zap the lightning rod, or oh my god, I keep doing that, the clock tower at certain points. Or I mean it could just be nothing and it's kind of like a buggy thing, because you can get zapped while you're down in the pack-a-punch room. I've seen it strike through the bunker like while you're down in the command room. So there's a few different crazy things the Zeppelin's lightning ability can do. It's not very far-fetched to say maybe it's just like shooting in that general direction and it looks like it's hitting the lightning rod or the Tesla coil. I still think potentially this could be something, because I don't know if you saw this back when he first started talking about the lightning rod tower, or the forgive me the clock tower. There are basically 4 levels of lights that you can see to this tower. You can see that the bottom 2 are always lit. Like throughout your match, no matter what you do, those 2 lights are always lit. I've kind of been like thinking, like, what if this clock tower is like a battery in some sense? So what if it's like, in some sense, it's half charged and we have to somehow get those other 2 levels to light up in terms of like fully charging the clock tower. And then maybe from there, we would be able to go ahead and do something with the Tesla coils and the lightning rods and that sort of thing on top of it. Or maybe even interacting with those in some sort of way would allow the lights on those different levels to light up. So they could kind of go either way, really. Yeah, it's still kind of just a theory. But yeah, so I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting. I wanted to throw that little, like, the whole battery theory on the 3rd and the 4th floor in there and kind of just, like, throw that out to you guys.
Exactly is what remains to be unsolved. The last information I have on this tower is that it has a chicken weather vane on the top that is identical to the one used for the main Easter egg.
Okay, and I've heard this theory a few times as well, and I don't necessarily think this is true. I think that this weather vane is actually specifically a different asset to the one that's on top of the clock tower and the one that's in spawn. So I think this one, specifically for the hardcore Easter egg, is for the hardcore Easter egg, and I think that the other 2 could potentially be tied to something else, or they're purely just like an asset and they're meant to kind of like point you towards this one that you can actually reach and you're like, oh, huh, that's weird. So I don't know. Maybe it could be something, maybe it's not.
And the one in spawn. It also has a Nazi eagle crest at the top as well, just like the one in spawn. So now it's up to us to find out how to shock the last 3 Tesla coils and get this.
I do also find that strange, though, that you don't really find those Nazi eagle crests anywhere else apart from in spawn and on that clock tower. And then they both also have a chicken weather vane, which I said is like the same asset. It looks different to the one that's over by the riverside that you can actually interact with. So I do want to point that out. It's been a while since I've actually been in game and looked at these like chicken weather vanes like with a sniper or something like that, so I could be off there, but I'm pretty positive that the couple times I did that in the past, I'm pretty sure they were different assets. You can tell that the one on top of the spawn, kind of behind where he's looking right now, and the one in front of him on top of the clock tower, you can tell that they're more of like a black color, and I don't think they have that like the orb looking thing that was on the other one, like that right there where the chicken is standing. I don't think they have that. So I think they're different assets. So at this point, you may or may not be wondering why I didn't actually show a picture of the one on top of the clock tower, and that's because I'm actually about to eat my words, but Absoulem was right. It does match the one that's over by the riverside. It's kind of odd that, yes, like I said, the weather vane in spawn is a different asset. It doesn't have that like orb on it like I was talking about. The one over by the riverside and the one on top of the clock tower do. They are that golden like weather vane with just the single arrow and the orb that the chicken is sitting on. They are that same asset. So it almost makes you wonder if maybe the one on top of the clock tower was meant to direct you to the one over by the riverside, or potentially vice versa, maybe where we're able to interact with that one by the riverside made to make you question the one on top of the clock tower. but it's also got me thinking about making that water wheel consistently spin somehow. Maybe that actually is the secret, like, Klaus emblem right there. Maybe it's not actually just the fact that we're able to interact with that chicken weather vane right there for the hardcore Easter egg. What if that Klaus emblem is tied to making that water wheel consistently spin and therefore powering something else up? Because we do know that a water wheel is therefore meant to generate power using water. So if we're able to consistently get that to crank, maybe that is a method of turning something on. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there, and I wanted to point out that in fact, whatever I said in this video, saying that the clock tower and the spawn chicken weather vane are separate assets to the Riverside one, that is actually incorrect. The Riverside and the clock tower are the same. The spawn is different.
Okay, let's get more grounded and move on to our next unsolved Easter egg. This is the fountain.
And yeah, if you're familiar with the Final Reich and you haven't questioned this lion fountain, I don't know what you're doing in terms of hunting Easter eggs, because this thing is so out of place, and you'll go on to hear him kind of say the same things I'm about to say, but like, it is so out of place. It's odd. Like, there's a little spigot coming out of its mouth. It has a drain. It looks like it drains down into something. You can't quite tell where that would be because there's no real way to get under where it is. So maybe potentially it leads over into like either the Pack-a-Punch room where there's a bunch of blood and stuff, or potentially over into the laboratory somewhere. But other than that, I can't think of where it could possibly lead. Like I said, maybe even like over into the laboratory side, like where you're coming out of the command room, maybe that like section of tunnel before you actually get to the laboratory. There's like these like tubes or pods that kind of come out of the wall. There's specifically one that has like a red fluid. It's obviously probably blood. It has like a red fluid in it, and that one's always kind of like piqued my interest. So I maybe those are connected somehow. I don't know, but like he does also speculate that maybe this is like a last step, or potentially where your Easter egg reward will pop up. So like I said, it could kind of go either way, and you'll hear him talk about a lot of what I just said.
An Easter egg, and no, I'm not talking about the Varuk fountain again. I'm actually referring to this bizarre fountain placed on the wall in the town square on Final Reich. It's odd because it's the only one of its kind, and it's really out of place, and it's had people questioning it for quite some time. It's possible the fountain could be filled with blood after enough sacrifices are made, or something when drained might offer a reward. This could be Sledgehammer's version of the bloodbath on Mob of the Dead or Blood of the Dead, where players filled up a tub with the blood until it drained, giving them the spoon upgrade. After testing, I was able to see that the jack-in-the-boxes and the lethal grenades do in fact sit in the fountain. There's also a drain at the bottom of the fountain and a weird spout in the lion's mouth. I tried to figure out what this might actually drain into, but it's kind of tough to tell since you aren't able to get directly underneath the fountain. This has my Easter egg spidey senses tingling, but I've yet to find much to go on. The fountain could be a start of an egg, or possibly the place that the reward is picked up at the end of an Easter egg. It's difficult to know for sure, but the hunt is on for this unsolved mystery. Moving on, let's talk about another popular unsolved.
Okay, and then this panel, for the love of God, is not the same one as the Storm Raven or the Death Raven battery, or if you're more familiar with the actual Tesla gun names, it's the Hurricane or the Reaper Tesla gun. Where those panels are, and you have to get like a bomber to either blow up on you or a whistling to break it off, that is not the same panel you're looking at right here. So if you actually go down to where the Storm Raven or the Hurricane battery is in that panel you need the bomber to blow up and break off, you'll notice that it has a bent corner on it, and you'll hear him go over this in this video. It is not the same asset. This one does not have a bent corner, but the point I was trying to make there is if you go over to the Hurricane battery, that panel where it actually is, you'll notice that there's a panel directly above that, and it looks exactly the same as this one. It's the exact same asset, except it does not have that bent corner on it. And that's all I want to point out here. I've heard this thing be speculated from anything from like a metal door to that same Tesla like upgrade battery panel. And then I've also heard it be compared to the mystery box, which blew my mind. I was like, how are you even seeing? Some people were saying it looks like it has like a split down the middle that could potentially be openable, kind of like the mystery box was. And I've never seen that for a second. So that theory never made sense to me. So yeah, I basically just wanted to stop the video right here to point out that it's literally the same panel as the one that's above the Hurricane battery.
Easter egg on the Final Reich, the metal panel in the town square. Now this panel is identical to the metal panels found around the map that are used in the main
See,
Easter
right
egg.
here.
The panels are blown
This is
open
what I
in
was talking
various
about.
ways. Metal panels found around the map.
You can see it right above where this other one is. It's the exact same panel. It's the exact same panel. The one that he's looking at right now is where the Storm Raven or the Hurricane battery spawns. The one right directly above it. That's the exact same panel.
That are used in the main Easter egg. The panels are blown open in various ways to reveal a battery.
And the ones that are open right here that he's looking at, those are the ones the Tesla batteries actually spawn in.
Well, it's my belief that since you have to use a bomber zombie and a whistling zombie to break the other two panels open, then it's likely that you need a different kind of zombie for this one. So, I wonder what enemy is tall enough to do the job. Oh yeah, the boss zombie, aka the Panzer Mortar, that just so happens to be the exact same height and let loose in the same area.
Yeah, see, I think this is a brilliant idea. I've had this same thought, and I just wanted to point this out. This is honestly probably our best bet. If there's a way to go ahead and get this to break off, I either think it's going to take one of these supposed Tesla upgrades that he's going to talk about either in this video or later in the next video. But basically there's a way to pack punch the regular Tesla gun, and there's also supposedly like a Bloodthirst Mark II essentially. So I think either those two Tesla guns are our best option to go ahead and get this open, or potentially the Panzer Mortar hits it off somehow. I think this is a brilliant idea, and I just wanted to go ahead and draw attention to that. And I think there definitely needs to be more exploration with this idea and more different hunts, I guess, if that makes sense. I don't know if there needs to be necessarily, I mean, obviously, because I've tried doing it just like directly and having him just hit it off. That doesn't work. So there obviously is some sort of trigger that needs to happen before he's able to do that, if that's the case. But yeah, like I said, I think the Panzer Mortar hitting off that panel is probably our best option of a lead or a potential way of getting it off right now.
Area of the map. Coincidence? I think not, good sir, madam. I think not. This panel is begging to be opened, and I am happy to be talking about it in today's video. As for what's in the panel, my best guess at this moment is that it's another battery that perhaps could actually one-hit kill the Panzer Mortar. Since you need 3 batteries in total to kill this beast, it would be a really cool Easter egg reward if you have a super battery of sorts that one-hits this boss for those skilled enough to have him whack the panel open.
See, I think that's a good idea. I think that's a possible option of what could come out of it. So basically what he was saying is like a super powerful battery that could just one hit the boss instead of having to do like all different 3 phases of the boss fight, or I guess 4 if you count the battery that goes back up. But yeah, what I think is either that like I said is a very viable choice, or like I could see why he would think that. But I also think it could potentially be the Pack-a-Punch fuse, and I'm not suggesting a double Pack-a-Punch. I'm suggesting a Wonder Weapon Pack-a-Punch, kind of like you have in the other maps that we know at this point. There is a way to actually Pack-a-Punch the Wonder Weapons as well as the Tesla gun in specific. And when he does point out the Tesla gun upgrade at that point in time, I don't know if any of those eggs were out. So there is actually a AC Tesla gun, which is the Pack-a-Punch version of the regular Tesla gun, which would lead you to think, why would they do it in all of the other maps, or a few different maps that we actually have found it in? Why would they do that in the maps but not the main map that the weapon was actually crafted and created in? So that makes no sense that they wouldn't have a Pack-a-Punch fuse in that sense, so that you could go Pack-a-Punch the Tesla gun. That's my thought on it, I guess.
I also want to mention that some believe you need to use a trap to reach the panel, but personally I think that the trap's launching ability is solely for the blue Enigma device. But hey, maybe they're right. Maybe you need to launch yourself up and ride the Panzer around like a horse. And with that, that's going to wrap up the panel Easter egg, and now let's talk about the next Easter egg.
It's a great thought, but I don't think that's a thing at all.
Easter egg on Final Right. Now the door Easter egg is a much lesser known Easter egg. This originated after people reported a...
I want to point out that I think these zombie jump scare doors that he's talking about, I don't think they're anything. I don't think during this video he realized that they were zombie jump scare doors. I think in the second video he touches on them and like did some experimenting. He noticed that the left door actually did break due to a jump scare zombie. Maybe it was like a clip like right after this part right here. But I'm pretty sure these are just jump scare zombies. And it is kind of peculiar that in that same like general town square block, there is like a death barrier, which he'll also go into detail about, but there is a death barrier associated with this, like essentially this town block, and you're not able to go in there without it just like immediately killing you and ending your game. It's also interesting that there's never been like a reason to patch this area, and it's always kind of worked as anticipated or as planned, I guess. So like, however they're keeping us out of there until we do whatever, there's obviously either a reason for that, or they just straight up knew that this area was never going to have a purpose. You don't need to be in there. There's really your two options. This either is something or it's not. And like I said, there either was never a reason to be there, so they didn't want you to be there, or they're specifically hiding this area for a reason, which could potentially be an Easter egg related thing.
The door in the town square could be opened by shooting it. However, it required you having to complete the hardcore Easter egg in game before you could actually shoot it.
Yeah, okay.
Well, after testing, it seems like the first mystery is what actually triggers the door to be shot. It's correct.
And I think regardless, like he was saying, I think it is very important, regardless of whether this is a side Easter egg or not, or if this is just a jump scare thing. I think it is very important to realize or figure out how this actually triggers and how it happens. I know that it is kind of random. It's for sure like a random thing. But there has to be a way specifically that you can either get it to happen, or maybe at a certain point in Easter egg, it's more likely to happen. There has to be some sort of like variables that go into this happening more frequently. And it is kind of odd that these are as rare as they actually are.
Only allowing some players to shoot it and then some not to. So whatever triggers this is probably being done by accident while people do the hardcore Easter egg. So first we need to sort out what lets people break the door.
And just to clarify, he's shooting at the door because there was a theory going around where basically this guy posted a video and he shared it with DameAndThatGame, I believe. I can't remember what the other guy's name was, but he shared a video. He basically showed a video of him shooting the door and it just basically broke. Like there was no jump scare zombie or anything, it just broke. So that was kind of odd, which is why people still think like to this day, maybe you can like break them with a specific weapon, or like after doing a specific thing, you can just go up to them and break them. And then it also leads you to believe like maybe since they're so rare to get open and so hard to get open, maybe that could be like an alternate route or like location for Klaus to go after you beat the hardcore Easter egg. So like there's a bunch of weird like theory and speculation around these doors, specifically because the testing hasn't been done.
And then second, we need to sort out why the door breaks. Remember what I said about how the devs said there is a lot more to be found after saving Klaus? Well, could it be possible that this door is actually a secret path for Klaus to walk to? Back when the game first dropped, Klaus used to glitch out and walk into a wall, but perhaps maybe he didn't actually glitch out and then he was actually going to a different place. So is it possible to maybe escort Klaus a different way depending on how you prepare the town square? I don't know, but for now, let's just find out what makes the door open to start with.
Yeah, see, that's what I was saying. I think there just needs to be testing to where we can figure out how these get triggered, and I do kind of agree with the idea of maybe his like original pathing when he just walked into the clock tower door and then kind of blew up and we were like, what the hell's going on? Maybe that is an alternate route, and it was just coded that like where he wasn't able to go where he was supposed to go, he just kind of blew up like that. I don't know. I don't know. Like it is possible that it was entirely just bugged since he does blow up anyways. Maybe he was supposed to go to the fire trap and just blow up, and that the pathing was just jacked up for whatever reason. But it is kind of interesting that he did walk specifically to the clock tower and then blow up. But it's almost like he had to go through that entire path, even if he was just walking into a wall. He had to go through that same like time period of a path, and then he blew up anyways. So I mean, I don't know. That's the only thing that's like odd, and I think it could just be like a bugged path type thing.
I also want to add that the door directly to the left of it can actually be broken by a jump scare zombie, and at the moment I can't say the same for the right's door, so I'm going to still be hunting this, but it is a possibility that this is just a jump scare door. Okay, so here is the last unsolved Easter egg on the final right, the I-beam Easter egg. Now back when this map first dropped, everyone thought that this was actually the number 1, and people were really confused why the number 1 was all over these weird spots all over the map. Well, then they realized that it was an I-beam and not the number 1. Well, this makes a lot more sense why they're all over the map. It's just decorative features to make the map appear more real. But wait, there's an I-beam Easter egg in the Darkest Shore, so is there an I-beam Easter egg in the Final Reich? It's very possible that an I-beam could be used in an Easter egg in the Final Reich as well. And this actually leads me straight into our next unsolved Easter egg, the I-beam Easter egg on Darkest Shore. Wait, that's the one you were just talking about. Well, it's believed that this Easter egg isn't actually solved yet, so let me back up a little bit. What is the I-beam Easter egg? Well, if you make your way into the U-boat pen on the Darkest Shore, you'll see these 2 I-beams in a window barrier. Now, if you shoot the left I-beam 8 times, it will eventually turn and spell out the word hi and then give you 250 jolts or points. Now,
I just want to point out that that was an error right there that he said. When you do shoot it and it says the word hi, it actually gives you specifically 1 point, which makes me think that this is an unfinished Easter egg for sure, because why would they just give you 1 point that you can do nothing with? where he was kind of speculating it was 250 points, I could almost justify why you could almost like wrap this up to just being like a funny message from the devs or whatever. But the fact that it specifically gives you 1 point that you're just never able to get rid of after that is very, very odd.
Personally, this is where I believe that the Easter egg comes to a halt and it is actually solved, and that it's just a funny message from the devs saying hi. But there are a lot of people that believe that now that you get the 250 jolts, that you need to take those jolts and then drop it somewhere on the map like you did for the PPSH Easter egg on the final right. Now, I could very well see this being the case, but in my gut,
Also, I want to point out right here, because I hadn't seen this this other video I'm about to mention right here, but this Easter egg with the money bowls on the final Reich, they actually have this same sort of animation type Easter egg on the Darkest Shore. And whenever you get that artillery bomber to spawn and you're to like escort him up to the artillery cannon so that you can shoot down the ships and do the whole like battleship thing, you're actually able to drop points to that bomber that you're escorting while you're escorting him, and it does this same sort of like money animation, and it gives you, when you like after you drop him 4 points successfully, it gives you that ability to do the same thing that this money bowl Easter egg does in the final Reich, which is basically a random chance at the classic PPSH out of the mystery box. So I think it's very, very unlikely that they wouldn't have something like this on every map after that. It's just interesting to me that they would do it on the final Reich and then also the Darkest Shore, and then I haven't seen anything else like revolving like a money sort of animation for like any of the other maps. So like, actually, as a matter of fact, they do have something sort of like this for the Frozen Dawn that was solved, and it's like a Simon Says sort of thing.
just think it's a funny message from one of the devs. So now that we've covered this potential unsolved Easter egg, maybe now you have some ideas for the I-beam Easter egg on the final Reich, if one does exist. But that is going to wrap up our unsolved Easter eggs on the final Reich, and now let's move on to our next map.
And I would like to mention one more thing just really quick while he's still on the topic of the I-beams. I think the I-beams are very interesting, apart from them just being like a structural thing, and they're oddly scattered. I think they're interesting because there was a live stream where Cameron and one of the other devs were going through the Frozen Dawn map after that released with somebody from IGN. And he basically mentioned that, like, obviously they were playing the Frozen Dawn, so it's a little bit different of a scenario here. But he said every piece of metal on that map has significance because they were based off of, like, it was mainly like stone and all that sort of thing. But as soon as they had the this like enhanced metal, or like they had discovered metal, it was like a whole new thing, and like it has its own significance in that map. So it makes me wonder if the I-beams have some sort of like specific significance in this map, especially where they're just like randomly scattered everywhere. And then obviously we have like an electrical theme about the map, so it makes you think maybe in some sense it would work kind of like the Bloodthirst lights when you're getting that battery unlocked. Maybe you could shoot them in a specific order and like transfer an energy between each one, kind of like the runes do on the Frozen Dawn. I don't know. That's like my best guess right now.
I promise we're almost done. I've only got 2 more Easter eggs, so just please hang in there. But the next one is the...
Actually, while I'm talking about that, I'm sorry I keep pausing it so much. I think that a lot of people are missing out like the bigger picture of how to solve the final Reich, because they're specifically looking at the final Reich. Like, the devs did say it's possible to go ahead and solve everything on the final Reich, and this was like, they said this before any of the DLC maps came out. They said it was like, it's always been possible. So technically you could do them without playing any of the DLC maps, but I think the DLC maps are going to be a much bigger factor than what the community is actually making them right now. I don't mean this in the sense of like a cross-map Easter egg. I mean, I think that there's specific points in each one of the DLC's Easter eggs that could potentially hint at or give us some sort of clue as to how the Easter egg is going to work on the final Reich. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, you have the Klaus escort step, but you also have that sort of like escort step within Tortured Path on into the store map for that zombie that you had to escort, which obviously gave you a goal to actually escort him and you get something, which definitely has me interested. Like, why would they not allow you to get anything for escorting Klaus? Which, okay, yeah, you get Perkaholic for beating the Easter egg, and yeah, when you're around him, you get infinite ammo, and I believe your your specialist ability regenerates like quicker or something, or just like on its own basically. But that's not like a permanent thing. As soon as he dies, you don't get infinite ammo anymore. You don't get that freaking specialist regen. You just have the perkaholic. So I think it's weird that based on escorting Klaus and just walking him through the map, nothing happens apart from him walking into the fire and exploding. So it almost makes me think, because they did that with the tortured path on Into the Storm, it makes me think that in some way, shape, or form, you could somehow, I'm not going to say charge him up by any means, but like somehow interact with him or the map in some way while he's walking to get him to do something else, maybe. But yeah, I just wanted to run that out there because like I said, I think all the DLC maps are going to have their own little like implications to the Final Reich, and how we are going to solve that. Because I think the best example of this is the Frozen Dawn with all the hieroglyphics and the like the inscriptions on the walls. It's kind of like the Final Reich, where you go down into the Emperor's Chambers and you have these stone murals. They have that same sort of setup in the Frozen Dawn. And as a matter of fact, I was doing some digging for this, and they actually have Klaus like literally inscribed on the walls of the Frozen Dawn, which I found super, super interesting. And yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and let this video probably play the rest of the way out. There's probably a few more things I'll mention here and there, but I think for the most part, he's pretty much off of the Final Reich. So yeah, it's pretty much gonna be like where I'm gonna end my conversation, because I'm like mainly focused on getting the Final Reich solved, because I do think there's a hell of a lot more to be found there. Like everybody always says, they had the most time on this map. There's been a casual and a hardcore Easter egg solved, but there's only one side Easter egg, and that's just really, really odd to me. And I would also like to mention that I find it very unlikely also, like I was saying for the classic PPSH, like they did it for they did it for the Frozen Dawn, they did it for the Shadow Throne, or I don't know if they did it for the Shadow Throne. Yeah, they did actually. So they do have that on all the maps for like the base DLC. Apart from the Groston House, which is technically like a survival map you unlock for doing the Frozen the Final Reich. And dude, all these maps are so similarly named. I'm just getting them jumbled. But yeah, what I was gonna say is, so the Frozen Dawn has like that same classic PPSH Easter egg where you do that, like Simon says, with the whole like money animation that I was pointing out earlier with the Money Bowl Easter egg on the Final Reich, and it has that same animation with the bomber on the Darkest Shore, and you can go up to a mirror and do like a sort of like a timed stop with a light type thing for the classic PPSH on the Shadowed Throne, which is again that same money sort of animation Easter egg. So what I'm trying to get at here is there's also a classic or a vintage MG42 Easter egg on the Frozen Dawn, which I think could be a hint. Like, since we found that one, maybe it's on all the other maps, like we found with the classic PPSH. It would make no sense that they added the vintage MG42 to one of the maps and none of the other ones. So that's like pretty much what I'm trying to get at here, because like they did the classic PPSH for all of the maps through the DLCs and like the base game. So like, why would they not do the MG42 unless that was just like a send off, like a farewell? Because like I said, as far as I know, we've only found it in the Frozen Dawn, which was the last DLC. So
Darkest Shore, and is going to be the number or color cipher. Now this is a really weird and strange one that kind of feels a lot like the Yeti Ice cipher that's on Infinite Warfare on Zombies in Spaceland. So this one takes place in the secret room in the minecart tunnels. So on the floor there are 3 coffins, and on 2 of the coffins there are these colored squares with letters that border the entire coffin. Now the fact that there's only 2 and not on all 3 is really odd, because if it was a duplicate asset then it would be on all 3 coffins. So where it gets weirder is that we actually have the same colors on the breakable panels around the map.
So I think he might actually be onto something here. This one is kind of strange. Like, I don't have a whole lot of experience with the Darkest Shore, if I'm being entirely honest. I'm not a big fan of the map, and like I could probably get through a majority of the Easter egg almost every time. It's just the freaking ritual room that really holds me back personally, especially if you're playing with randoms and you just cannot get them in that room, I swear to God. But I think he might actually be onto something. So like, when he was looking at these right here, we have those 3 little like statues which are called the Sons of Nerthus. I also noticed that there was specifically 3 of these little like stones on the ground, or like coffins as he was calling them, with this like border that he was explaining. Like, if you like look around here, these all have like their own little color and a letter associated with it. So I think this may potentially actually be a cipher of some sort, like he was saying. But I think it's interesting that there's 3 of these dudes with a skeleton strapped to them. You have this sort of like arrow sort of coffin ritual thing almost, and there's also 3 sons of Nerthus, the like stone things. And then when you come into this room for the first time, there's also 3 Mutilers. I just want to point that out. Like I just thought about that, and that's kind of why I stopped the video here in the first place. But there's 3 sons of Nerthus, and then you have these 3 skeletons which are strapped to the floor, and then you also have those 3 Mutilers, which are probably in some sort of sense the sons of Nerthus as well, which I would assume is kind of like the same thing that's going on with these skeletons. So it almost seems like a multi-layered sort of like Sons of Nerthus thing. Like I don't even know how to explain it really. Like it's just like a thought that crossed my mind. I don't have any notes or anything for this, so just wanted to kind of like throw that out there.
So where it gets weirder is that we actually have the same colors on the breakable panels around the map. So would shooting these with the Ripsaw do something? Also, side note, I know these panels are used in the main Easter egg, but I'm just kind of thinking out loud here for a potential side Easter egg. So if the Ripsaw is used in this, keep in mind that we also have an upgraded Easter egg allowing us to...
I will say this. I do think it is kind of interesting that it feels like not all of these panels get used, and there are a few of these fuses that are just straight up different colors to like a fuse you would get for like a perk. Like this blue one that he's looking at right now. I mean, maybe it's like discolored a little bit and it's more of like a green, but I'm pretty sure if you go in game, it's more of like almost like a cyan blue or a cayenne, whatever you want to say. Almost like a teal. But that kind of goes into my point. It's like, what perk would that even be? Or like, what energy is that? And I have like some other theories and other videos and stuff I'll be putting out in the future and going into like the whole like energy thing that I have like speculated in my mind. But I think this energy is very like interesting, I guess, because it doesn't match up with any of the fuses on any of the perk machines. It doesn't match up with like a specialist ability, for instance. So yeah, it's just kind of that odd fuse color. And also I was gonna say, I don't think that like when you're doing the pest ritual that all of these get used, but like actually thinking about it, I'm pretty sure all of them get hit by the end of it, because the pest ends up coming back into this room. You have to like stand over by the Ripsaw thing, and it like ricochets off a few different walls. So I'm pretty sure, yeah, all of them get used by the end of it. But
buy ammo for the Ripsaw. Could that have a deeper meaning than just surviving? Perhaps being able to buy infinite ammo for the Ripsaw is to shoot the hundreds of tiles needed to progress this cipher. Now, I'm aware how far-fetched this is, but hey, welcome to World War II Easter eggs. They're hard as fuck, and they don't care about your feelings. The devs said they were the hardest ones yet, and they meant it. So far-fetched is right at home with World.
See, and that's what I have a problem with this community, is like when you're talking about World War II and like all your ideas and things like that, people want to shut you down or call you like insane or like just essentially debunk you right off the bat. It's like, unless you're willing to do that time to like put in the research and like the time to actually sit there and test these things, you can't really debunk it now, can you? I mean, I'm not going to say everything that we, throw out there in terms of theories and speculation is going to be right by any means. I'm not even going to try to like pose it as like fact. But my thing is like, I don't understand why as soon as you like, personally, like when I find something interesting and I try to bring it to the community, I don't know why that instantly gets shut down when they're not willing to go in game and like do their own research and like really look into it themselves.
World War II Easter eggs. And now the moment we've all been waiting for, Chronicles 2. Wait, nope, that's a future video, or at least we hope. Well, no, of course, I'm talking about the final unsolved Easter egg. Now, this is the possible panel Easter egg on the Darkest Shore. So there's 2 sets of panels, and they are found at the top of the map on the Darkest Shore. So when translated, they read surface, opposite.
Now, I do find these kind of interesting as well. I almost agree with Absoulem here. I don't think they're going to be anything, and especially since they are on other maps as well. But I almost think that just because it's a reused asset doesn't necessarily mean it's nothing. And I have personally looked at these just kind of like in my own time when I was first playing the Darkest Shore, like back in the day. I always found these kind of interesting. But like he said, you eventually go back to the other maps or whatever, and you notice that they're in the other maps as well. So I don't know. It just makes you immediately go, oh, okay, maybe not then. But it is interesting that these ones specifically right over by this radio where you have to activate the boss fight, it is interesting that these ones specifically spark.
And within. Now, I hate to be a negative Nancy here, but personally, I don't think this is an Easter egg.
Yeah,
why'd you put it in the video? Well, I want to be as thorough as possible, and there are several people who have been hunting these panels, or batteries if you will, and they believe that you need to switch the levers on these in some fashion and it'll trigger something. As for my take on this, I really doubt this as an Easter egg.
And see, like, I kind of see where they're coming from, but the thing is, like I said, it's like a reused asset that kind of just gets, like, duplicated around the map, and they all have that same little, like, lever positioning. That's, like, something I noticed. I would think, like, if they are part of an Easter egg or something, all of these would be set differently, or, I mean, maybe to make it a little bit more inconspicuous, they would set them all to the same thing, but I almost find that pretty unlikely. But I don't know, maybe that's just like a me thing. That's probably just like I'm looking too much into that. All right, you guys, so this is probably gonna be like one of the last edits I put into this video, but I did want to mention really quick that I've actually changed my standpoint on how I feel about this like electrical box Easter egg on the Darkest Shore. So the other day while I was at work, I still needed to do some editing to this video, obviously, but I was listening to some World War II videos just while I was at work doing, you know, my job. And a DameAndThatGame video came on, and he specifically covered these boxes, and something very interesting stuck out to me that I've never ever heard anybody cover, and he actually has video proof of it happening. So it's interesting as hell, and I'm just gonna go ahead and play the clip so you guys can see exactly what happened. So just a little bit of context before I actually do let this clip play out. As far as I know from what he explained in the video prior to what I'm going to show you guys, he does this on round 6, and I think the only thing he did prior to that was the little like high I-beam Easter egg where you get the 1 point. So I just wanted to go ahead and throw that in there, and then I believe he goes ahead and follows up with this clip, which is just him shooting the electrical boxes, but something very interesting happens, like I said. So I'll go ahead and let that play out and show you guys what I'm talking about.
Whilst I was hunting yesterday, I found something very suspicious. Now, when the Darkest Shore first came out, I hunted with Greg FBS, Lunatic and Chopper, and we were very interested in the electrical boxes around the bunker area. There are 2 sets of electrical boxes with 4 sets each within each set. Now, these are the first things I aimed for after I managed to do the first step of the Easter egg, and after shooting them, they made a particular sound which could be normal, but as you can see on screen now, I ran to the second set of switches, and there was a bright red glow around one of the handles. Now, I tried to replicate this many times. I couldn't do so. I tried looking around for a reflection.
See, so as you can see, it's very odd. He said he could not find a way to replicate this, and the one thing that did stick out to me was that when he said he shot the other ones over by the mystery box location off to the side there, he did mention he heard like a little noise. Like it was kind of obvious that maybe he should go somewhere else, and like that he had potentially done something. So he ran over here to these other fuse boxes and he saw that one glowing. So I think it is very interesting, and like I said, I've never heard anybody else talk about this, so I just really quick wanted to cover this before I go ahead and finish off with Absoulem's video and go ahead and end off the video.
There's a few simple reasons, and here's my first one. These panels are also found on the final right. Now, here's the second one. These panels aren't exactly reachable to a player, and here's my third reason. The final step of the Easter egg takes place right in front of these batteries, so why would they make a side Easter egg?
I mean, unless you have to interact with it from a distance doing something, it just feels very odd that they would like kind of like sandwich it in between the mystery box location and also the final like encounter boss interaction location. So it's like, I mean, I guess you could argue that, okay, maybe you get it done before you go into the boss fight so that that prompt isn't there and you never have to deal with that anyways. But that would be kind of inconvenient if you decide, oh, hey, I'm ready for boss fight. Now let me go ahead and do this side Easter egg. But like, if I try to interact with this in some way, then it's going to pull me into the boss fight. So like, I almost seem to think that like, unless you're interacting with it by shooting it or throwing a grenade at it from a distance, I genuinely don't think this is going to be anything.
Finale of the main Easter egg. But hey, there's both sides of the coin. I'll let you decide if it.
But like I said, I hate being that person that like throws something out there and then immediately like debunks it, or like vice versa. I throw something out there and then people debunk it on me without doing like any sort of research. So it's like, it is kind of like hypocritical in some sense to be like, okay, I think that's debunked. So I'm just going to say like, it could still be something. Like there's no guarantee until the devs come out and say, hey, this game is 100% solved. We're good.
This is an Easter egg or not. And with that, we've now got every single unsolved Easter egg in all of Zombies collectively in one place. But wait, there's more. I actually have an honorable mention.
And then yes, he talks about this one right here, and this is like something that again has kind of like stumped the community. It is kind of interesting that there are specifically 3 shelves. Whenever you get Jack in the Boxes, you get 3 Jack in the Boxes. So it makes you think, okay, there's 3 shelves. Let me throw the Jack in the Boxes on those shelves and have them sit there, because they actually sit there. But it makes you think maybe there's something more that goes into this, because they blow up and it obviously it does nothing. So it makes you think like maybe there's a way to get it to trigger so that the Jack in the Boxes actually sit there and don't blow up, or maybe there's something you have to do first in order to get this to work. I mean, on the other hand, well, actually, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of weird because it's odd because you can't see these at all. There's like a broken, like, shiny piece of glass over this entire window up until you actually shoot it or it breaks via the mortar from the Zeppelin. That's about like the only thing that'll break it, unless you actually I think maybe the avalanche every now and then will break it too, but there's no reason to break it yourself. I'll say that, like, apart from like if this is something, you would obviously want to be throwing the monkey bombs there, or the Jack in the Boxes rather. So I don't know, it is kind of interesting. And also when you do that, you'll notice that on the other side, like literally right around that corner, so like here you have your Jack in the Boxes where those shelves are, and then right around that corner there's another window right there, and if you break it, you'll actually notice that there is like a kind of like a secret room, like for like extra gifts and stuff in the toy shop, kind of behind where those shelves are. So it is kind of interesting that those are there, and I definitely think there's more to be discovered with the toy shop, in short.
Because this always bothered me back in the...
Yeah, like you can kind of see it right there, kind of off to the left. Yeah, like right there, right around the corner. There's like extra little like puppets, like the little like stick ones you see in the little toy shop display there. There's extra ones right in there, and there's a few different little like colored presents sitting in there as well.
Looking into this, with these 3 panels here, you might be able to stack a Jack in the Box. It is possible to get one to stick on there, so I don't know, look into it. It's something to think about if you're bored.
And I will mention, I don't think he said it in this video, but there was a video from Glitching Queen. She was like one of the main people kind of like leading that search in terms of what those shelves could possibly do, and she was the kind of the one that brought it to the community's attention. From my standpoint, from what I remember, she was the one that brought it to the community's attention that you could even throw the Jacks on those shelves, or that they were there in the first place.
Something to hunt. This brings us to a...
So yeah, that's gonna pretty much wrap up the video. I'm sorry that I paused it so much, and like I said, if I do the other video in this one as well, then it's gonna be way too long. So I'll go ahead and link both of them in the description below anyways, but I'm going to actually probably just end it there, and let me know what you guys think. Like if I just kind of like ranted for no reason, like you kind of disagree with a lot of what I said, then go ahead and let me know. Or if you kind of think that I might be onto something with certain points, then yeah, definitely comment that as well. But yeah, if you guys haven't seen or heard of Absoulem, be sure to go check him out. Again, I want to go ahead and thank him for allowing me to do this with his content, and I'll go ahead and just, yeah, see you guys in the next one. Peace.